That's really awesome. God just showed me in my mind how he connected the vibrations between spirit guides and how that was another way that he could tune into me. He tuned into me through spirit guides because he put the sounds out with that kind of syllabalism, like spirit guide, sporting goods, special guest, sexy girls. I know that sounds funny, but he actually did it in those formations because I like sexy sexy girls, and spirit guides sounded so much alike. And then sporting goods would be something I'm athletic, but I got out of athletics because of how I'd lost its sense of fun and turned into competition. And I only like to do it if it's not for a team, because then you turn it into a competition and you're like, I hate that team. But I'm like, hey, I'd actually like to hang out with the other team and then play a game and then hang out with the team again. But instead they'd be like, no, they're our rivals, because we have this illusionary thing that we do, you know? So then he said it to me that way, and when I was younger, I was really into sports, playing them on a team, because that was one of the things that was supposed to find me. And then, it's sort of funny, and then you move it along, boop-a-doop-a-doop, special guest. I used to always be like, I'm going to be a special guest on this guy's song, a special guest on this guy's song, a special guest on this guy's song. So music has always been such a huge part of my life, because from the time I heard the word special guest, I must have been about 9 years old, and I got into music, because that's why I remembered the word special guest when I went into my future and came back. God says this to every single one of us. So when you find him, it's going to be different than mine. So special guest isn't going to mean anything for you. The word spirit guide isn't going to mean anything to you. It might. I mean, I'm not saying it won't. And now that you have, maybe you guys can construct your whatever to direct your special inner guides to themselves by using this term spirit guide. I mean, that's probably why so many people try to find their spirit guide using the term spirit guides. But God himself sent out the vibration that was sort of SG, two-syllable word followed by a one-syllable word with an S in the front and a G in the other. There was spirit guide, and then he tuned it in a little bit more. It went from sporting good to special guest to sexy girl to spirit guide, because Dan went through all of them. He was part of a team until he saw that camaraderie turned into competition. Then he was looking for music, and he almost gave up, but he realized that music was going to help him get there, because not only would it help him get there, it would help him spread the message. So he stuck with it, because he knew deep down it was part of his dream. Then, during that time, he saw sexy girls, and oh boy, did sexy girls take Dan over in a way that it didn't take anybody else over. And all the other guys are like, whoa, I understand, man. No, you don't understand. Dan would have to go from one person's house to another person's house to another person's house, go to work, go to another person's house. During work, stop over someone's house and have sex, and then go finish work, and all the time he'd wash his dick off in between, and he'd go to another person's house at the end of the day. And certain days he'd only have sex once a day. Other days he'd have sex 7 times a day, 8 times a day. That's why I gave him the illusion of herpes and HPV or HBV, whatever you guys call it. I don't even know. But God, you are like scaring me, because you're telling people my whole life, and I don't want my whole life to be known. Please stop. But you have to tell them the truth of the fact about the diseases. If I publish this, I don't want people to think I'm gross, because I'm not gross. I've totally healed. You know how they say, oh, I've been healed. Well, I've been healed, and this was years ago, but, you know, I didn't go around telling anybody because I was embarrassed to say, because you were like, oh, yeah, you had it, now you don't. Sure. Well, guess what? I've had sex with tons of people since then. I'm not trying to brag about that either, but I've had sex with tons of people since then, and they haven't had STDs. And you know what? Anyone who has had sex with me and who had all of a sudden had an STD 2, 3, 4 years later, it wasn't for me. It was because they got it from someone else after that. But, you know, they're going to say, oh, Marsha Ben Ham, especially after I tell people that me, God, gave Dan, same person talking, weird, those things just so they could scare him to stop doing what he was doing. And it sort of did, and it made me refrain from doing anything to anyone for a long time. And then it made me refrain from who I would do anything with unless I felt and knew vibrationally that they were clean, or that they weren't going to harm me in any way or lead me to something unclean through a friend or something like that. You know what I mean? And then instead of finding me someone that wasn't clean, they led me to Cindy, who led me to whatever crazy stuff that has and I mean, I still can't put that all together, but I know that through that whole thing and through that whole time with Cindy, after the whole Sexy Girls episode, when I met, you know, I went through marriage and a relationship and well, the music stuff and having sex with wives and girlfriends and people that are like, going from one place to another, washing my dick at a country fair sink and stuff like that. I mean, I know it's not funny. It's not funny at all. But that's what led me to the point where I met one person, and I don't want to say her name because I don't want to put her down because she's a blessing. I'll say her first name, Sheila. And she led me to Cindy. And Sheila always had this weird, she'd have this astrologist guide, and she always talked about being hippie and being spiritual. And hey, guess what? It makes sense because she was leading me to the spiritual thing. And that's what interested me about her, and that's what kept us such close friends. And if I saw her now, all this stuff that has gone on between us, she'd be angry. But I'm not angry because I didn't mean to make her angry either. I never meant to make anybody angry, ever. Nobody ever really makes anyone angry, but they get so confused, they actually think they don't care that they make people angry on their path to find themselves. So during that whole phase of Sheila over to Cindy, and then I found Cindy, and she was someone who didn't have a disease, who was clean and clear, who liked just about every kind of music, who was really easygoing, but, her thing was the firm belief about religion, how she doesn't believe in religion, and neither did Dan, to find God. He didn't believe in religion, but he knew there was a God, because God knew he would find himself in someone outside of the confines of an invisible God belief, So from Cindy, Dan got his heart truly broken because he made a serious, super, spiritual love bond, and he felt unconditional love. He had learned something that he'd never learned before, that God himself was looking to experience in a human being. That opened up the signal a lot more. Then he got into doing meditation and stuff like that a little tiny bit before he met Cindy. He got into it right after Brittany. He got into it. So he has to give her a little bit of credit too, but it was because he was going along the line of the sexy girls and sexy girls and sexy girls. And even when I was with Brittany, he was still doing the sexy girls. He was cheating a lot with Brittany. He cut back his cheating super, I would say from 1,000 a year to, 110 a year. That doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. It's a huge bit from going from having sex 5 times a day to having sex 3 times a day. And then after he broke up with Cindy, guess what? He had sex maybe 8 times in a year. And then he had one special friend named Carrie that he would have sex with, who was married, and he still didn't find that wrong, even though he just had broken a heart and all that kind of stuff, because it wasn't wrong. It wasn't wrong, and he was trying to explain to her who was married that it's still not wrong. And she understood who's married, because part of her mission and her goal to find God is to find out that having sex with more than one person isn't wrong, because you can still be in love. She's still in love with her husband, but she wants to have sex with somebody who shows her attention. Everybody needs a combination of love, attention, respect, trust, unexpectedness. I don't know, we would put that in an emotional sense, but the feeling of spontaneity, all that stuff matters to have a full life. So then, because of Cindy, after getting my heart truly broken, I got into spirit guides and all that kind of stuff to find me where I needed to go. And then I found out just today that God itself, the frequency of the divine one that created everything, found me through all those little chains. So now if you can go through all those little chains in your life and change the elements that sound alike through syllables, they will actually add up in a mathematical, scientific, spiritual formula, and you will you'll be able to find some of your spiritual guide maps to find your frequency to the God vibration and the God source, the God frequency. I'm telling you, try it. I just made it up right now because it's God telling me how to tell people, and I don't even know exactly what I said. That's pretty awesome, but it's true. So listen to this over and over, no matter how hard it is to believe. I will help you, and we will listen to this over and over, and I'll help you decipher it, because the more I listen to it, the more sense I'll make out of it. It's awesome, guys. This is awesome. This is something that needed to happen since the beginning of time, or the beginning of anything, not even time, because it's just whatever, but this is important, and you need to listen to me. And God says, you need to listen to me. And if I wanted to let God say it, he would say, listen to Dan, and I'd change my voice a little bit, because I am God now. And I don't want to say that in a brag way, and I won't do it when I'm in front of you, because I don't want you to look at me like that. God doesn't want you to look at him like that. If you see the eyes of God, it touches you. And you stare into my eyes now, and you really listen with your heart, I will touch you. I know that's a lot to say, and you could be the craziest, wildest person, but if you came to me crazy and mad, I'm not going to open up to you like that. If you come at me and with an open heart and you look into my eyes, you're going to see God. In yourself, not in me. In me most of the time, because you'll be blocking it from yourself, but you'll see it in me, and you'll want to use me to get there. And somehow I have the tie that you can use to get there, because now that I've found it, I can find everybody's spirit guides. Or else I can help them find the formula to find those spirit symbols. It's weird. I know it sounds crazy, but that's just how it works, guys. I love you, and I'll talk to you later.